Are you just starting your watercolor journey? You would like to paint some flowers, but you don't really know where to start from? I got you covered. In this tutorial, we're going to paint 10 easy watercolor flowers. Are you ready? Let's start. The first flower we are going to paint is a rose. You can use any color you wish to use. I'm going to have an orange, red, sort of rose. And to create a rose, we are going to start from the center part of the rose. And we are going to create some C shapes using the point of our brush. And then the outer we go from the center, we're going to start to use more pressure. So we use the point and then the belly of our brush and then again the point of our brush. Point, belly, point of our brush. And the outer we go from the center, we create more pressure, we add more pressure on our brush in order to create bigger petals. I rinse my brush into the cup of water in order to remove a part of the pigment, and I keep going out with the brush and I do pressure and releasing the pressure with the point of our brush. Pressure and releasing the pressure at the end. When the rose is still wet, like in this case, we can add more Scarlet Lake, for example, where we want to add some contrast, where the rose is still wet, where the petals are still wet. We can also add different colors, like for example the Windsor orange, to have a different contrast. I can show you how to add another rose next to it with a different perspective. I will do this one more orange. And in order to do this, I always start from the center of the rose. I created these C shapes. And the outer I go, I create more pressure, I add more pressure onto the paper with my brush, and I create thicker C shapes. I remove pigment in order to have different values. Pressure and release. Pressure and release. I'm creating a rose with a different perspective. So in this case, we're going to have more petals toward the lower side. And we keep adding petals with this method. We have our two roses, and for example we can add some leaves with some sub-green color. We can let them start from the beginning, from the center of the two roses. Pressure and release, pressure and release. release. This is a simple way to create leaves. I can create another leaf here, pressure and release, pressure and release. And for example, changing the value of this green, I could create another small leaf here, pressure and release, pressure and release. The second flower we are going to create together is a lavender that, as you know, is this beautiful purple color. And to make this lavender, we're going to start from the top and create it just by adding a bit of pressure onto the paper. We're going to create these small strokes. We're going to change the value. Onto the paper. I can add a bit more violet in order to give a different hue to this different color, to this lavender. And basically, as you can see, I'm adding pressure using the belly of my brush and the tip to create the finest part of the lavender. I'm gonna create another one next to this first one for you. I will start from the top part. It's just the tip of my brush, just a small stroke, and then the tip and a bit of the belly, just a small pressure. I can change the value, even change the hue, the color, adding more purple, and I will create other small parts of the lavender here below, using the belly of my brush. And then we can rinse this purple and blue color of the lavender, and we can add the stem of the lavender by mixing, for example, a bit of green. This is soft green, and I would add a bit of this purple color to the green to make it a bit darker and less bright. It's a darker sort of green, and lavender has a thin stem in the middle, so I just drag this small stem in the center part of this beautiful lavender we created. And I do the same thing on the second one. The third flower that we can create together is a daisy. We can start from the disc. I can mix a bit of yellow ochre with a tiny bit of yellow lemon dip. And the daisy, as we all know, has a round disc. And then we can add the petals. I usually create the white petals with a tiny bit of black. I like to add a tiny bit of cobalt blue and some yellow ochre. This color is a bit too intense because we want more towards the white transparent color. So I just take it and rinse it off the most part into water. And then to create the petals of this daisy, we're gonna touch slightly the yellow, and we're gonna let our brush create by pressure and releasing the pressure this white petal. I then rinse my brush, I take a little bit more of this color and I do the same. I touch the yellow, pressure and release, pressure and release. It's beautiful when the yellow of the center part of the daisy is bleeding into the petals. I will create another petal here. The petals are created by adding pressure and releasing the pressure with the point of the brush. I touch the yellow, pressure, and releasing the pressure. Go around and I do all the petals around this daisy. You can turn the paper if you find it more comfortable. We can add the stem of our daisy in green, and then we can let this stem start from the center, drag it down, and for the leaf we can do pressure and release, pressure and release. And we have created our daisy. The next flower we can create together is a sunflower. So the disc is dark brown, so we're going to add some pressure and releasing the pressure. Then we rinse our brush into water and we take some yellow. We can create these petals that are created touching the disc of this sunflower, pressure and releasing the pressure. And then on the other side, pressure and releasing the pressure. And it's going to be beautiful if the brown is going to bleed into the yellow. Then we change the value of our yellow, so we rinse off some of the yellow and we do the same movement with our brush, pressure and release. Petals of the sunflower are quite pointy, so keep that in mind. Pressure and releasing the pressure and leaving a bit of point at the end. We can add a bit of contrast into the center part of onto the disc of this sunflower by adding a few small strokes of black, and just use the tip of my brush, and then we can add our stem. The stem will start from the center of our sunflower, and then we can create the leaf, which is usually a big leaf. Pressure and releasing the pressure, pressure and releasing the pressure. The fifth flower is going to be the Black-Eyed Susan. We start from the disc of the Black-Eyed Susan. It is black and it has a round shape like this. And then to create the petals, we're going to use a mixture of yellow, what we already have, for example, with a bit of orange. We start from the disc, we touch with the point of our brush, we add pressure, and we release the pressure. The petals of the Black-Eyed Susan are longer comparatively to the one of the sunflower. In this exercise, they are quite pointy. We change the color, the hue of our flowers, so the flower becomes more interesting to look at. And then we can add, from this perspective, a few petals that are more by side. And this is our Black-Eyed Susan. We can add our stem by using some subgreen, and starting from the center we can drag down our stem, and then we can add some leaves. The sixth flower that we can paint together is a poppy. We know the poppies are red, so I take a bit of Scarlet Lake, and I'm going to start by creating the petals of this poppy. The petals of the poppies are of round shape. This is one petal of the poppy. I rinse off my brush into water and I will create another petal of this poppy. petal. The petals of poppies are wide and of round shape on the top. Then I will create, for example, here big petal. I can create a closed poppy next to it, sort of bud, by adding pressure and releasing the pressure. I'm creating a poppy that is more closed. So change the value. Of this red poppy. And I give the impression it's closed and that there are petals in the back. While the paint is still wet, I can add the stem of this poppy, and I will drag down from the first poppy, the first stem, and then I will add the second stem to the smaller poppy. The leaves of poppies are a bit different, so we will try to reproduce them by adding pressure, and then we're going to release, creating the point of this leaf, pressure and release, and then we change the value. Pressure and release. We can create the center of our poppy once the paint is dry, so we will come back in a few minutes. So our seventh flower is going to be the tulip, and to create the tulip I use the pressure of my brush onto the paper. So I start from the tip, I add pressure and then release the pressure, pressure, and then release the pressure, and I created this sort of bud. That reminds the shape of a tulip, and I can add a bit of red where the orange is still wet, and allow the two paints, the orange and the red one, to bleed together. We'll create one nearby. using the pressure and releasing the pressure in the same way as I did before. And then I can add the stem of the tulip. It's a straight stem, goes down from the center of the tulip, and the leaves are long leaves that we can create by putting some pressure, keeping the pressure, and then releasing the pressure. We can create another leaf nearby with the pressure, keeping the pressure, and releasing the pressure. And we have our tulips. The next flower we are going to paint is a coneflower, and we are going to use the tip of the brush to create the center of the coneflower that has some very small strokes of this type. And then we can rinse off this color, and we can use, for example, some opera rose to create the petals of this coneflower. We put some pressure and we release the pressure. We can rinse our brush to change the value. All of these long petals around. When the petals of our coneflower are ready, we can add the stem and the leaves in green. And our coneflower is ready. At this point we can go back to our poppy and we can add the center. So the center of the poppy is yellow, the moment is dry. So we created the center part in yellow. And then with the tip of our fine brush, this Princeton Heritage 6, or we can use a finer brush if you prefer, like a size 2 for example, you take a bit of black. This is Mars Black, and you just create some very fine dots around the yellow disc of the poppy, and then we can connect them to the center, to the yellow disc, by adding very fine pressure. We can create some very thin lines. The next flower we're going to create is an anemone. The anemone has a black center. It's a black disc. And then, for example, we can create this anemone in blue. I can use some phthalo turquoise. And we can create the petals of this anemone by touching the center of the anemone, adding pressure, releasing the pressure. The anemone has wide and round petals that we are going to try to reproduce together. We can change the value, but basically we create big round shape petals in blue in this case, but you can use any other color, starting by dabbing, by touching the center of the flower. And then while the anemone is still wet, for example, we can add a few details. Let's create the stem and the leaves of the anemone. I start from the center, go down to create the stem, then I can create the leaf of the anemone that are a bit different in shape because they are long, pressure and release, and then they are more or less of this shape. And our anemone is ready. The last flower we're going to paint together is going to be a dahlia. A dahlia has a round shape with long and pointy petals. Starting from the center, I'm going to use the shape of this brush, so adding a bit of pressure, starting from the top of a petal and releasing the pressure. And then I started to add some opera rose. Basically, these are simple strokes that are going from the upper part to the center. And we keep giving this round shape. Changing the value, changing a bit the hue, changing the direction a bit of these petals, but keeping in mind that it's a round shape and the petals are quite pointy. They are long and they all converge to the center of this flower. And then we can add the stem of our Dahlia, starting from the center, adding then the leaves by adding pressure and releasing the pressure, pressure and releasing the pressure. And here you have it, 10 easy watercolor flowers. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something from it. Tell me in the comments below which one was your favorite flower to paint. For me, I think the Black-Eyed Susan. If you would like to see more videos like these ones, let me know in the comments below and I will work hard to make it happen. Subscribe if you would like to follow my journey and to learn something. Thank you for watching. See you next time.